During military operations in the Kursk region, Russian infantry faced the dilemma of crossing to the other side of the river. At the same time, the soldiers could not think of anything better than to drown two of their own BTR-Ds and lay wooden pallets on top of them to create a pedestrian crossing. This was reported on January the 17th by analysts from the Defense Express portal. Photos and even memes are already being actively distributed on social media, which emphasize the absurdity of such a decision. After all, there is no information on the preliminary serviceability or malfunction of the equipment used as a crossing on the internet. And this may indicate that the Russians could well have used their own completely serviceable armoured vehicles in such a rather comical way. At the same time, open sources contain information that the BTR-D is a vehicle that can move across water at a speed of 10 kilometers per hour forward and 1.5 kilometers per hour backwards. That is, such an armoured vehicle can quite easily cope with water obstacles if used as intended and in accordance with technical features. But the Russians, as we can see, found a completely different use for the BTR-D. If we assume that the equipment was faulty at the time of use as a crossing, then the actions of the Russian military can still be called inappropriate. The faulty armoured personnel carriers could well have been used to extract components that would be needed to repair other units of equipment. Of course, everything may turn out to be much more prosaic. Russian paratroopers tried to ford these rivers in their BTR-Ds, Defense Express suggests. However, even in this case, the situation remains comical. After all, instead of saving the equipment, the soldiers decided to leave everything as is and use the drowned vehicles to ford the river. Russia uses long-forgotten World War II technology to cross rivers in Kursk region. As Forbes columnist David Axe writes, during World War II, some armies, notably the British, attached metal spans to the top of tank chassis and used the resulting funny bridges to quickly cross gaps that stopped vehicles on the battlefield. 80 years later, in the Kursk region of western Russia, Russian airborne troops are deploying modified BTR-D amphibious vehicles in the same way, by piling what looks like wooden floors onto 13-ton tracked vehicles and rolling them into rivers. Sinking into the muddy riverbed, the vehicle's improvised services act as bridges, the analyst writes. While the BTR-Ds are as vulnerable to Ukrainian mines, missiles, artillery and drones as any combat vehicle, they are fast, capable of road speeds of around 40 miles per hour. That makes them less vulnerable than permanent bridges or slower engineering vehicles, the analyst writes.
Russian President Vladimir Putin and his Iranian counterpart, Masoud Pezeshkian, signed a broad cooperation pact Friday as their countries deepened their partnership in the face of stinging Western sanctions. Pezeshkian said the pact opens a new chapter in the relations between Iran and Russia. Russian and Iranian officials say the Comprehensive Strategic Partnership Treaty covers all areas from trade and military cooperation to science, education and culture. According to Associated Press, Putin praised the deal as a real breakthrough, creating conditions for the stable and sustainable development of Russia, Iran and the entire region. He said the amount of trade and economic cooperation was still insufficient, voicing hope the new treaty will help clear bureaucratic hurdles and expand ties. The Russian leader added that the countries are trying to resolve technical obstacles to advance planned projects to ship Russian natural gas to Iran and build transport corridors to Iranian ports in the Gulf. Pezeshkian said the projects are feasible, adding that experts were working to resolve the remaining obstacles. His visit came ahead of Monday's inauguration of U.S. President-elect Donald Trump, who has pledged to broker peace in Ukraine and take a tougher stance on Iran, which is grappling with growing economic problems and other challenges, including military setbacks in its sphere of influence across the Middle East. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov dismissed any link with Trump's inauguration, saying the signing had been planned long ago. Pezeshkian, who met Putin for the third time since coming to power in July, said the documents form a solid foundation for our forward movement. The Iranian president emphasized that countries in the region should resolve their own problems themselves, adding in an apparent reference to the U.S. that the presence of outside forces will only exacerbate tensions and destabilize the situation. Pezeshkian also spoke in support of prospective Russia-Ukraine peace talks.
توسعه و گسترش همکاری‌های اقتصادی و تجاری دکتار خودش رو پیدا کرد در رابطه با برنامه‌هایی که میتونید سند جامع همکاری‌های دو کشور که امروز به امضا رسید فصل جدیدی در روابط میان ایران و روسیه در همه زمینه‌ها به ویژه در زمینه همکاری‌های اقتصادی خواهد گشود. اطمینان دارم این سند که بر اساس منافع مشترک دو کشور تنظیم شده می تواند مسیر توسعه همکاری‌های ایران و روسیه را هموار و افق‌های روشنی را برای طرفین ترسیم کند. در این ارتباط بین ما و کشور دوست و هر دو کشور مصمم به رفع سریع موانع مناسبات اقتصادی و تجاری از جمله در موضوعات تعرفه‌های گمرکی، بانکی و تبادل کالا و ارزهای ملی، ضمانتنامه‌های سرمایه‌گذاری، تسهیل تردد تجار و موضوع روادید هستند. در منطقه اجرا کنند با گفتگو با توجه به شرایط فعلی منطقه ارتقاء سطح همکاری‌های امنیتی در مسائلی نظیر مبارزه با افراط‌گرایی، تروریسم و خشونت‌های سازمان یافته مورد تأکید قرار گرفت. روز به روز خواهیم توانست با مدیریتی که الان یادآور می‌شوم که جنگ راه حل مناسبی برای حل مسائل نیست و از مذاکره برای دستیابی به صلح میان دو کشور روسیه و اوکراین استقبال می‌کنیم. اعتقاد راسخ داریم که کشورهای غربی باید به نگرانی‌های امنیت دیگر کشورها احترام بذارند و از تحمیل زیادخواهی‌های خود به دیگران پرهیز کنند. تیم مدیریتی و گروه‌های